And it's a beautiful topic, and it's the idea that what is good may not always win as we might see it, or the right thing might not always happen as we might hope for. But it's part of this genius of life and genius of how God works life, that the good is always protected. Now, we may not see that in the short term. It's more of an eternal thing, but that the good is always protected. And I'm just, I'm reminded of this quote I read a long time ago, but it was that the mystery of good is far greater than the mystery of evil. And it really is. Like, it's pretty much a miracle watching how much good just will continue to be protected and continue to move forward, despite times that can be really rocky and really tough and really challenging and can bring all that into question. I think we can rest assured that God's always going to be doing this work to pull the good out of very difficult circumstances. Segue into the story we're talking about today. So this is a story of Lot and his family and his wife, and they're stuck in this city, and the city's going to be destroyed. And again, think mentally here. Way you could say it is he's stuck in a bad place, and angels come along, God comes along and pulls him out of that place. And that's the line we're going to look at today. And we're going to be spending probably most of next week on this story too, because I think it's just such a beautifully powerful story. And it happened when the angels brought them outdoors that they said, "Escape on your soul, don't look back behind you, and don't stop anywhere on the plain. Escape to the mountain to keep from being consumed." And we'll be looking at different parts of that next week. But today I would just want to talk about like that, how that just that broad sweep of the protection of good. Here's this really challenging time and this really challenging paradigm. We're going to look at a little bit of the paradigm, a challenging mental space to be in. And here's God going, yep, I'm going to pull what's good and I'm going to pull it forward into a new place. And I don't even know whether we're always necessarily conscious of this. I think probably a lot of the time this is God's work, not ours. But we certainly can reflect back on it and go like, oh yeah, I remember that hard time. And felt like somehow God was protecting me through it. And there was some goodness that came out of it. Not that life is always better after a really challenging event. I don't believe that. But I do believe that God will pull good forward. So let's put this into a context of how this might work for us. Just imagine those of us with kids or nephews or nieces or grandkids. Imagine a teenager, and the teenager's just caught in this really bad paradigm, this really rough space of, I'm never enough, I'm never going to fit in, no one likes me, I'm not tall enough, I'm not athletic enough, I'm not musical enough, I'm not this enough, not that enough, like a whole list, which most of us, if not all of us, go through those times where we feel like we just don't measure up, we don't fit in. And even all the years spent teaching, even sometimes students who have all those things can struggle because they still feel like they don't fit in. And that's kind of how hell works. So kind of think of that as this city, as this paradigm that a teenager can live in. And they're constantly looking around for validation. They're constantly looking for their group. They're constantly looking to somehow fill that empty space. And the fact is, like, they'll never fill it in that city. I mean, that's the crazy part. It will never be filled there. I can't say that strongly enough because I certainly know as adults we struggle with this too. You will never find the answers there. Many, many times I've seen students and people who I know very well, and they have all the success in the world, but it's just pouring water into a bucket with no bottom to it. It won't make any difference. And you can have all those experiences in the world. It's not that they're bad experiences or that they don't make any difference, but the idea that one of them is just going to all of a sudden be like, oh, now I feel good about myself. Said no one ever. That's not how it works. So isn't it interesting, right? That here's this mindset that just there's going to be nothing good that comes of it. And so much of life, and this is a little bit of an aside, it's something I was talking to my wife about, that I have found to be true. It's like we have to stop trying to answer the question in that city, quote unquote. We just have to let it go. We just have to say, I'm actually not going to go there anymore. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to stop asking that question, am I enough? That's what the solution is, by the way, which is hard, not easy to do. what God does is God reaches in and he gets that good part and he starts to pull the goodness out into another place. Now that's not easy. Again, I love the idea of the angels grabbing him by the hand and like sort of yanking him out of there. And that's very true. And I think about, right, again, let's just think if you're a parent or a grandparent or caregiver of a teenager, you can see that goodness in them and you can see this paradigm that just isn't working. And I think really good parenting is about addressing that goodness and saying like, hey, dude, you got to leave that place. There's nothing there for you. And you're never going to have enough self-esteem. You're never going to feel like you're enough. If you just keep hanging out in there, you have to move forward into different places and that there's a movement for it because we can get stuck in that. And as crazy as this sounds crazy, it's going to sound crazy, and probably a lot of you will disagree, and that's fine. There's a part of us that actually can like being stuck. It creates a drama and a sense of aliveness. God's like, nope, that won't work. That was just too self-centered. We have to move out a different direction. Not easy to do. Very easy to say, not easy to do. So that's something I think that we can all take into this weekend is taking a look like of just observe where we're kind of protecting the good, how God's protecting the good in us. And maybe as best we can we do that for someone else? Can we see someone who's in that paradigm, in that struggling place, and help them to kind of take a next step forward, a next step into something new and different and beautiful. And just knowing that maybe we can be the angels who grab them by the hand and say, like, you know what, not much there for you. Let's step forward into something very different. And I'm going to step forward with you into that new place. And so we'll talk about that a little bit again next week. So it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful paradigm of how to maybe hold some things in a different way. How that looks for adults, it's a great question. I think adults you probably have some paradigms you just know aren't working because you're just spinning your wheels. How do you have the goodness? How do you find that goodness there? How do you let God kind of pull you by the hands to a new place, willing to leave that all behind because it's nothing good's going to come out of that. All right, friends, that's the thought for the weekend. And now what we're going to do, as we always do, is come in for a soft landing. When we come in for a soft landing here at New Church Live, what we do is we do a little meditation, little prayer, a little blessing, and we'll say hi to folks on Facebook. So with that, my friends, let's get a little breath. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I. Be still and know that. Be still and know. Be still and. Be still. Be. Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you, bring you peace, and bring you home. Amen. All right, dear friends, let's give a little cheery hello to anybody who might have joined us on Facebook, and I'm hoping you all have a really amazing, wonderful time this weekend ahead, and hopefully we have beautiful weather, etc., etc. All right, let's pull this on up. Okay, let's see here. Mary, difficult time in the plant, old faith that good does prevail. And it is actually a really difficult time. And Mary, like I prevail is it's just kind of interesting. I think good is protected. I don't think good always prevails, if that makes sense. Because yeah, it's just as hard to see that sometimes. And I definitely have seen where been in situations with congregants where I'm like, yeah, that's just not good, and there's not even gonna I'm not even gonna try to pretend there's a silver lining to it. I do believe that there's a core goodness that is protected, but prevailing, I think that's a legitimate point. Linda writes, excellent advice and a beautiful perspective. Thank you, Linda, and I hope you have a great weekend ahead, my friend. And Marcus, as always, good morning to you, buddy. All right. So let's flip on over to here. Your little cheery hello over to here. Sherry writes, have a super weekend, and Rita joins her in that. And yeah, just wishing everybody a great weekend.